from stationary sources that includes power plants and refineries. And now live to the floor of the U.S. House here on C-SPAN.
The House will be in order. The prayer will be offered today by our guest chaplain, Bishop Henry Fernandez of the Faith Center, Sunrise, Florida.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, for truly this is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. I pray that our government will seek your divine will in the affairs of this great nation, the United States of America. I ask for your leading in everything this 112th Congress will work on. Give them wisdom to make the right decisions that will cause all of us to be progressive and successful. May each member of this House remember the words spoken by Paul, "Let no one seek his own good, but the good of his neighbor." Bless them and their families with good health and long life. And let your peace rest upon them and this great nation as we continue to live out the words written over the chair of the Speaker of the House. In God we trust. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. The chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House his approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved.
Mr. Speaker.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 1, Rule 1, I demand a vote on agreeing to the Speaker's approval of the journal.
The question is on the Speaker's approval of the journal. Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Opinion of the Chair, the ayes have it, and the journal stands approved.
Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from Texas.
I object on the vote on the grounds that a quorum is not present and make a point of order that a quorum is not present.
Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question are postponed. Pledge of allegiance today will be led by the gentlelady from Missouri, Ms. Hartzler.
Thank you. Please join with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Chair will enter to 15 one-minute requests on each side. Without objection, the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Hastings, is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's with great privilege that I welcome my dear friend, Bishop Henry Fernandez, as our guest chaplain for today's opening prayer. He is an anointed speaker, educator, accomplished author, and entrepreneur. Henry B. Fernandez answered the call of God on his life in 1985 and later became an ordained minister in 1988. In July 1991, Bishop Fernandez began to demonstrate his faith in God and a commitment to walk by faith in every area of life when, along with his wife Carol, he founded the Plantation Worship Center in the cafeteria of a local elementary school in South Florida with only 11 members. Now known as the Faith Center Ministries, the church makes its home in the former Sunrise Theater, where its more than 8,000 members embrace a mission of reaching the world for Jesus. Bishop Fernandez is an amazing inspirational speaker, author, community servant, and business person whose work continues to manifest the freedom of worship enjoyed across our nation. Through his work, he has encouraged us all to exercise faith and life victoriously. He and his wife, Carol, have 2 sons, Shion Zane and Elijah Zane, and I'm truly honored to welcome my friend and inspirational Bishop, Henry Fernandez. Thank you. I yield back.
The Chair will entertain up to 15 further requests for 1-minute speeches from each side of the aisle. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Missouri rise?
Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to speak for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I rise today on behalf of men and women in uniform who won't get paid if Senator Harry Reid continues to refuse to pass the continuing resolution and shuts down the government later this week. They deserve better. We have warriors fighting on our behalf in 2 theaters, bravely standing strong for our ideals of freedom and liberty. Meanwhile, at home, their families are sacrificing too. Spouses are bravely running the household and being both mom and dad to their children. While they are fighting for us, the Senate and the President are AWOL, doing nothing to make sure our soldiers are getting paid, even as the President takes us into a 3rd war. In fact, they're actively promoting a shutdown because they believe it will benefit them politically. I say shame on them. The House has proposed a CR which funds the Defense Department for the rest of the year, ensuring our men and women in uniform and their families receive their well-deserved paychecks and our country is defended. We need to pass this bill and move forward and stop playing politics. Our military deserves nothing less.
Gentlelady's time's expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts rise? Gentleman's recognized.
Madam Speaker, we're one day closer to a government shutdown, and the Republican leadership continues their obstinate crusade against everyday Americans. If their insistence on draconian cuts and their blind allegiance to a government shutdown weren't bad enough, their 2012 budget decimates SNAP and Medicaid, food and health care assistance programs for the most vulnerable people in America. Republicans continue their efforts to balance the budget on the backs of the poor, and we must not stand for that. But Americans from all walks of life are saying enough. Over 23,000 people, members of churches, mosques, and synagogues, union members and white-collar workers, clergy and lay people are fasting in opposition to the draconian Republican budget cuts. Democrats stand with those fasting in opposition to cuts to programs that make up the circle of protection, the programs that protect the hungry and the most vulnerable both here at home and around the world. We can and we should and we must do better. I urge my Republican colleagues, stop your assault on the poor. Stop your assault against the poor. You can read more about their efforts at www.hungerfast.org.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
The gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, the United States is engaged in a new concept of war. No longer will the United States go to war only when it is in our national security interest. The Obama doctrine is war in the name of humanity. Secretary Gates said military intervention in Libya is not necessary for our national interests. So now we drop bombs in countries when we self-righteously decide the ruler is mean to his people. Is this a lawful reason, a legal reason for war in Libya? My concern is that the Constitution does not give the President unilateral authority to commit our military to foreign entanglements in the vague philosophy of humanity. There has been no prior consulting and consent of Congress. The War Powers Act only gives the President authority to enter into war without consulting Congress when a national emergency is created by an attack on the United States, its territories or possessions, or its armed forces. There is no such national emergency. So what is the legal authority for military intervention in Libya? We need some answers. Are you in, Mr. President? And that's just the way it is.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise? The gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, we stand today on the verge of government shutdown. Without quick action, we will leave our seniors, our veterans, and vulnerable Americans everywhere in the cold. But instead of working on a compromise, I state Republicans have introduced a budget that will devastate seniors while protecting tax breaks for the richest. Under the Republican budget, seniors in my district will lose their guaranteed benefit under Medicare and face devastating cuts to Medicaid benefits for nursing home care, which now pays over 48 million elderly and disabled Americans. Seniors live on a fixed income. I state seniors live on a fixed income. They cannot afford to pay more for health care or see their cuts in Social Security or privatize their Medicare. We must not cut their benefits in order to protect, I state, in order to protect and enlarge tax breaks for the rich and for companies that ship jobs overseas or for oil industry. We must control a deficit. It is wrong to balance the budget on the backs of the American seniors. This is not about power. It's about what's good for the American people. I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise? The gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to ask my colleagues to join me and recognize the importance of improving our nation's schools. I recently visited the San Ramon Valley High School and heard from many students on this important issue. I told the students then and there that I would bring their message back to Washington, D.C. and share it in our nation's capital. Today's young people face an increasingly competitive world, and their education is the foundation of our country's economic success. The students at San Ramon Valley High School shared with me the importance of high-quality education and teaching young people not only how to take a test, but also how to apply their skills in real-life situations. The students also asked that when Congress makes decisions about the federal budget, that funding for schools and education should be a top priority. After all, investing in the education of our young people is an investment in our future. I urge my colleagues to listen to the thoughts and ideas of the students at San Ramon Valley High School and the young people throughout our country.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Massachusetts rise? The gentlelady is recognized.
Madam Speaker, my Republican colleagues have put forth spending proposals that they assert promise savings, but deep cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and the discretionary budget really just shift those costs onto seniors and children. I have heard from hundreds of constituents urging opposition because, to quote a constituent from my hometown of Lowell, the impact would be devastating. This dangerous game has already cost private sector jobs in my district as contractors wait for Congress to pass a long-term budget. Many in this body have proven willing to compromise to solve our debt crisis. We have already enacted $10 billion in spending cuts as a show of good faith. But House Republicans continue to insist upon ideological policy changes that even some Senate Republicans say, quote, go too far. It is time for this body to listen to the American public and reject ideological policies that would destroy Medicare as we know it, eliminate women's health services like breast and cervical cancer screenings, make it easier for polluters to contaminate our drinking water. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purposes does the gentleman from Connecticut rise? The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to honor and remember 3 brave men from my state who recently lost their lives in Afghanistan. PFC David Fahey of Norfolk was killed by an IED on February 28th. Sergeant First Class Dahan Park of Watertown was killed by an IED on March 12th. And Sergeant Frank Adamski of Moosip was killed in a firefight on March 29th. March 29th was his 26th birthday. These 3 men and 1,500 others have made the ultimate sacrifice in the battlefields of Afghanistan. And these 3 losses over 30 days is a big price to pay for a small state like Connecticut. But these brave soldiers volunteered to put themselves in harm's way, and they die heroes. And I join my friends and neighbors in Connecticut in mourning the loss of these 3 men and wish to extend my heartfelt thanks, respect, and sympathies to their families during this difficult time. I yield back.
For what purposes does the gentleman from Kansas rise? The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to express the great concern that many of us have over the potential impact a government shutdown will have on our men and women serving overseas. Recent Department of Defense memos have stated that in the event of a shutdown, our troops will be required to continue to serve our country, but they and their families will receive no compensation. Mr. Speaker, the House has passed H.R. 1, which would protect these military families from being left in the cold and would keep the government operating while making reductions in spending. As we wait for action on that legislation from the Senate, our troops and their families hang in the balance. We cannot allow this Washington process to threaten the operational readiness of our military and dishonor the service of our soldiers. Our men and women in uniform are bravely putting themselves in harm's way in service to our country. We cannot let them down. We owe this to our troops. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield back.
For what purposes does the gentleman from Missouri rise?
To address the House for 1 minute.
Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Both sides here have agreed to serious budget cuts. The choice is between responsible cuts and extreme cuts that endanger our fragile recovery, cost jobs, and hurt seniors. And because Democrats are fighting to stop the Republican extreme cuts, Republicans are threatening to shut the government down. Their proposal cuts investment in projects like high-speed rail by $1.5 billion, which would have a serious impact on jobs in the St. Louis region I represent. And their proposal lacks the common sense and courage to end taxpayer giveaways to big oil, millionaires, and companies sending jobs overseas. But most shockingly, as the Wall Street Journal has noted, the proposed budget would drastically cut Medicare and Medicaid, throwing our seniors into crisis. The AARP has said the proposal would deny vulnerable seniors access to long-term care and force deep cuts in quality and safety in nursing homes, leaving more seniors at risk. The Republican extreme cuts are not the solution. I urge my Republican colleagues to get serious. It's time to roll our sleeves up, to work together to solve the nation's problems, not create more problems by shutting the government down.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Ohio rise?
I request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
The gentleman is recognized.
Here's a formula for the collapse of both our economy and our democracy. Increase spending for the Pentagon by $7 billion and ensure its budget for the rest of the fiscal year. Everything else gets cut $13 billion and gets a budget for just 1 week. Money for war in Iraq, war in Afghanistan, war over Pakistan, war in Libya. So many wars going on at the same time, you could rename our town Washington. Money for bombs, no money for books. Money for missiles, no money for new moms. Money for jet fighters, no money for crime fighters. Money for an empire that is as broad as our fears. No money for an America that's as large as our hopes. Just money for unnecessary wars. We don't want apocalypse now. We want peace now. We want jobs now. We want prosperity now. And we want the leadership to provide it now.
For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey rise? The gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, today I stand with the Polish people as they commemorate two horrific events on this Saturday, April 10th. First, the 71st anniversary of the Kaden Forest Massacre, and the second, the first anniversary of the tragic airplane crash that killed 96 people, including the Polish president and top Polish officials. The Kaden Massacre occurred during World War II in April and in May of 1940, while Poland was fighting a war on two fronts. The Soviet secret police brutally killed 20,000 Poles, whose bodies were later recovered in a mass grave at Kaden. Tragically, last year, as a delegation of Polish officials were en route to Kaden to commemorate the massacre, their plane unexpectedly crashed in western Russia, killing all aboard. It was with great sadness that I heard the news of after having had the great honor of meeting the Polish President Kaczynski in the past. His devotion to the Polish nation and the people were immeasurable. Madam Speaker, the Polish people over the past year and through the course of history have been unwavering in their resilience and patriotism in the face of adversity. Their courage is admirable and inspiring. On this day, we stand in solidarity as they commemorate two occasions of great loss.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Louisiana rise?
Madam Speaker, request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Gentleman is recognized.
To my remarks.
Madam Speaker, you can tell a lot about a person by how they treat our seniors and how they treat our children. According to the 2012 budget, House Republicans don't value our seniors nor our children. They want to privatize Medicare and undo Medicaid. They will burden already cash-strapped states and place it in the hands of governors. Under their plan, governors will decide whether or not you'll receive health care. They're telling 50 million seniors to cough up the money or get off the health care rolls. They're telling the 1.5 million Medicare and Medicaid recipients in Louisiana that they're on their own. According to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, most beneficiaries would spend more for health care under the new proposal and could get reduced quality care under our GOP proposal that we're fighting here today. Grandparents and their grandchildren will have less access to doctors when they are sick. Through this budget, we see the Republican future, and it ain't a pretty one. To use my grandmother's words, Madam Speaker, Republicans, you should be ashamed of yourself for picking on our seniors and our children. And I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Vermont rise? Gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I speak today to honor one of Vermont's outstanding civic and corporate leaders. Bob Young is retiring as president of Central Vermont Public Service Company, one of Vermont's largest and most respected companies. When Bob Young became president, that utility faced many challenges. He faced them directly: rising costs, transmission system upgrades, a customer base that wanted reliable power but green power. Bob Young succeeded in making CVPS an award-winning company. He focused on customer service and environmental concern and stewardship, proving that green power could be reliable and affordable. It was a team effort. His valued employees, his diligent board of directors, and his shareholders all were part of it. But the best part was his wife, Vicki, who was not only at his side, but oftentimes a step ahead. You serve Vermont well, and on behalf of a grateful Vermont, Bob and Vicki, thank you for your service. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Texas rise? Gentlelady is recognized.
Madam Speaker, our soldiers on the front lines all over this world understand what a fight is about. If you've ever visited them in Iraq and Afghanistan, they have values. They know about their grandmothers and grandfathers. They know about their families back home with their children. They know what they're fighting for. They will understand that we're here fighting for values. This government shutdown is not the blame or the fault of the President of the United States or the Democrats in this House or in the Senate. There's been an offer of $73 billion. It is a question of whether or not you want to solve this problem on the backs of grandmothers and granddads, on the backs of the families of the military persons who are on the front lines in Iraq and Afghanistan. Do you want to throw college students right out on their rear that are right in the middle of their school term by canceling their Pell Grants? Do you want to tell mothers taking their children to the clinic that there's no more Medicaid for them? Do you want to turn the lights out and close the door and say, America, we don't have any more values? Don't shut this government down. You're not going to shut it down on my watch. But I'm going to stand and fight for values, and we're going to pull together. And we'll stand and we'll survive. Let them shut the government down. Shut it down. Shut it down. But we're going to stand for the values of protecting the most vulnerable in America, and we will win. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Hawaii rise? Gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, there is no question. The policy statement of any legislative body, including ours, is the budget. And what are we saying? I can tell you what the Republicans are saying. The Republicans are saying they haven't learned what caused the crash in 2008. They haven't learned because they still want to continue to give the tax breaks to the super wealthy, and they still refuse to address the cost of the wars and what the defense budget is all about. Instead, the Republicans want to balance this budget on the backs of our kapunas, our elderly, and they want to take away from those who receive Medicaid, those who need the help of government. You know, this is not how a great nation should act. This is not what the United States of America stands for. All I can say is we should be shamed because we are better, and we are not sending the right message. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield back.
For what purposes does the gentleman from Illinois rise? Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I rise today because in a few short days, this body will consider an extreme and devastating anti-choice bill. H.R. 3 attempted to redefine rape, aims to ban private insurance coverage of reproductive health care, and imposes tax penalties on plans that include care. These unprecedented provisions have been widely debated, and it is my hope that the American people will realize the severity of this bill and that their representatives will stop it. But my fear is, throughout this debate, a dangerous provision of H.R. 3 has been overlooked, making permanent the Medicaid abortion ban, or the Hyde Amendment. Dangerous because if the extreme provisions are stripped out as compromise, and we are left with a ban that permanently bars poor women from accessing care, we have still lost. Let's call the abortion ban what it really is, a ban on constitutionally protected health care that poor women cannot afford on their own. I encourage my colleagues to stand with poor women struggling to make ends meet around the nation, and staunch opposition to any Medicaid abortion ban and H.R. 3. Thank you, and I yield back.
For what purposes does the gentleman from Virginia rise?
I seek unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
The gentleman is recognized.
Madam Chairman, what we do is to balance priorities, and the most important are the priorities within the budget process. The Republican budget proposal introduced today is really un-American because it cuts hundreds of thousands of jobs, it weakens our economy, and it punishes poor people. That's not what we are about. Today, the wealthiest Americans in this country have 40% of our nation's wealth and are bringing down more than a quarter of our income. But this budget will cut their top tax rate by 15%. In other words, if you're making $1 million, you're going to get a tax break of $150,000. If you're making $1 billion a year, which more than 24 of the hedge fund managers in this country do make, you'll get a $150 million tax break per year. That's not what we are about. Let's look at the misplaced priorities of the continuing resolution in front of us. The cost of cutting education, health care, environmental regulation, child care, cancer, and Alzheimer's research, it is equal to the cost of giving those top tax breaks to the wealthiest Americans. Those are not the priorities of America. That shouldn't be the priorities of this Congress. We can do better. Let's do better. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois rise?
Madam Speaker, to address the House for 1 moment.
The gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, yesterday my Republican colleagues introduced a continuing resolution that would increase the defense budget for the entire year while funding the rest of the government for just 1 week and drastically cutting just about every other vital program. That's no compromise. For months, the Republicans have said that as we reduce spending, everyone has to take a haircut, including the Defense Department. But now the Republicans propose increasing military spending. The Republicans claim they want to fund the government for the rest of the year, but this bill is for 1 week with drastic cuts to programs that serve our most vulnerable. Madam Speaker, if you say one thing and then you do another, that's not negotiating in good faith. That's not a real compromise. In fact, the Washington Post reported that the Republican caucus this week, the possibility of the government shutdown was greeted with cheers and with applause. They want a shutdown. Over 13 million Americans are unemployed. They don't have time for this, and they don't have any more time to waste. And we shouldn't be wasting the time and the resources that they gave us. So if the Republicans won't compromise at the negotiating table, maybe we should get everyone down here to the floor to discuss this, to discuss the condition of the unemployed, and to discuss why a government of, for, and by the people should remain open. Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Gentleman, yield back.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
The gentleman makes a motion to adjourn, and the question is on the motion to adjourn. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed will say no. The noes have it, the noes have it, the motion fails.
Madam Speaker.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois
I request the
rise?
yeas and nays, Madam Speaker.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having arisen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote.
So the House is right now voting on a motion to adjourn during the beginning of the day, legislative business here in the House. Congressman Jesse Jackson, Jr. bringing the motion to adjourn as members are talking about the possible shutdown of the federal government, which could happen at the end of the day on Friday. The government temporary funding will run out at midnight on Friday. If that does happen, without a settlement in that situation. Government could be repeating a scene that happened 15 years ago. Government offices will close, museums, federal parks. The IRS will not be able to process refunds or any of your IRS returns. So members right now are working behind the scenes, lawmakers working behind the scenes, House and Senate members, to find a settlement for the situation that is looming right now, possibility of a government shutdown on midnight on Friday. The House will also today be working on the rule for H.R. 910, removing the Environmental Protection Agency's authority to regulate greenhouse gas emission. The rule calling for an hour of debate, equally divided. Should that rule pass, we would expect general debate to follow, along with deliberation of about 12 amendments and then more votes. The Senate also expected to deal with the issue of the EPA and Regulation Authority. They will be voting on at least 4 amendments on the same issue this afternoon. You can see the Senate live right now on our companion network, C-SPAN 2. The House right now voting on a motion to adjourn brought by Congressman Jesse Jackson, Jr., protesting, in a way, the stalemate in talks to come up with a final agreement on fiscal year 2011 spending. Without a compromise, the federal government would shut down this coming Friday at midnight. Now, also on the agenda today is a bill removing the EPA's authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions. Ironically, one of the agencies affected by a shutdown would be the EPA, and without an agreement, the Environmental Protection Agency would stop issuing permits and they would stop reviewing environmental impact statements, which slowed down the approval of projects. A short time ago, I spoke with a reporter covering this EPA regulation bill. Darren Samuelson is the senior energy and environment reporter at Politico. We've got the House today working on a bill taking away the EPA's authority to regulate greenhouse gases. Why is this a priority for House Republicans?
Well, they've been calling this EPA regulations that are coming forward from the Obama administration job killing, and they're going to, stop all sorts of manufacturing and energy production, and just not a really good regulatory policy to be having at a time when energy prices are so high. So the Republicans have made this a top priority. The Obama administration counters that these regulations are actually pretty effective, pretty efficient, and won't cost too much, and also will have the added benefits, they say, of reducing air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions.
Now, this issue isn't limited to Republicans in the House. It's also on the Senate's agenda for today. What are the prospects for passage of those proposed amendments in the Senate, which, of course, is led by Democrats?
The first and leading one, which is sort of a counterpart to the House bill, will probably get a majority. It's going to get all the Republicans and a handful of Senate Democrats, too. It won't get 60 votes, though, and that's the crucial threshold to get it added to the small business bill. And then there's several other amendments, and none of them I don't think will come close to 60. Probably won't even come close to a majority of 50. And then ultimately President Obama has threatened to veto a lot of these proposals as well.
Well, the White House has also weighed in on this debate as it relates to the spending negotiations that have been going on for the past several months. What has the administration said about this effort to impose on the EPA's regulatory powers?
Well, they kind of danced around it as it relates to the budget and the negotiations that are going on to try and fund the government for the next 6 months. Republicans in the House want to actually stop EPA from spending any money on these EPA regulations, and environmental groups have really gone AWOL and gotten very upset with the fact that the Obama administration hasn't explicitly said that they would veto a spending bill if that rider was included. The administration has said they would veto a standalone bill like the one that you're seeing voted on today in the House, or even this amendment that's going to be voted on from Senator McConnell in the Senate. But when it gets to the nitty-gritty details of the budget, the administration has been a little bit more careful about drawing a clear line in the sand, and that's upset some of its allies on the left.
So will this bill pass here in the House today?
Yes, it will. It'll easily pass in the House. I think we've always known that it was going to be a slam-dunk vote. Really, the only question is how many House Democrats go along with the Republicans, and I think the number's around 15 to 20 Democrats from coal and oil-producing states who are likely to vote with the Republicans on this bill.
So what's the next step for the measure, then?
Well, after that, it'll probably die here in the Senate with respect to just a standalone bill. There's no way that that bill's going to move through committee or in the Democrat-controlled Senate. So we kind of are at a standoff. I mean, the Republicans will have clearly made their case that these regulations are politically toxic for Democrats, and they've certainly been able to force some Democrats to take tough votes. I think you're going to see campaign ads over the course of the next year that any Democrats who voted with the EPA or with the Obama administration will probably see their names and the fact that they support it. I'm sure they'll call it a gas tax, the Republicans will. But, for countering that, the administration is under a Supreme Court order from 2007 that orders them to actually go ahead and regulate for greenhouse gases, 2005. And so the Obama administration is following what the Supreme Court told them they had to do. And these regulations will go forward, and those, of course, will be challenged in court by industry as well.
Darren Samuelson is the senior energy and environment reporter at Politico. We thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
And we're being told that debate on the rule for that EPA regulation bill is expected to happen after this procedural vote on a motion to adjourn. In the meantime, deliberations do continue behind the scenes on trying to come up with a settlement in the debate over an agreement for the federal government to receive full funding until September. Right now we're working on temporary funding, which will last until Friday. After that, the government is expected to shut down. The Associated Press reporting in a call with the President, Majority Leader John Boehner says he is still hopeful that a deal can be reached to avert a shutdown.
On this vote, the yeas are 36, the nays are
Mr. Graves of Missouri. Mr. Graves of Missouri votes no.
On this vote, the yeas are 36 and the nays are 367. And the motion is not agreed to. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Speaker, by the direction of the Committee on the Rules, I call up House Resolution 203 and call for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Calendar Number 26, House Resolution 203. Resolved that at any time after the adoption of this resolution, the Speaker may, pursuant to Clause 2B of Rule 18, declare the House resolved into the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for consideration of the bill, H.R. 910, to amend the Clean Air Act to prohibit the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency from promulgating any regulation concerning, taking action relating to, or taking into consideration the emission of a greenhouse gas to address climate change and for other purposes. The first reading of the bill shall be dispensed with. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived. General debate shall be confined to the bill and shall not exceed 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Energy and Commerce. After general debate, the bill shall be considered for amendment under the 5-minute rule. It shall be in order to consider as an original bill for the purpose of amendment under the 5-minute rule, the amendment in the nature of a substitute recommended by the Committee on Energy and Commerce now printed in the bill. The committee amendment in the nature of a substitute shall be considered as read. All points of order against the committee amendment in the nature of a substitute are waived. No amendment to the committee amendment in the nature of a substitute shall be in order, except those printed in the report of the Committee on Rules accompanying this resolution. Each such amendment may be offered only in the order printed in the report, may be offered only by a member designated in the report, shall be considered as read, shall be debatable for the time specified in the report, equally divided and controlled by the proponent and an opponent, shall not be subject to amendment, and shall not be subject to a demand for division of the question in the House or in the Committee of the Whole. All points of order against such amendments are waived. At the conclusion of consideration of the bill for amendment, the committee shall rise and report the bill to the House with such amendments as may have been adopted. Any member may demand a separate vote in the House on any amendment adopted in the Committee of the Whole to the bill or to the committee amendment in the nature of a substitute. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on the bill and amendments thereto to final passage without intervening motion except one motion to recommit, with or without instructions.
The House will come to order, and members and staff are advised to take their conversations off the floor. The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 1 hour.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For the purpose of debate only, I yield the customary 30 minutes to the gentleman, my friend from Colorado, Mr. Polis, pending which I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
During consideration of this resolution, all time is yielded for the purpose of debate only. Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks.
Without objection.
House Resolution 203 provides for a structured rule designated by the Rules Committee for consideration of H.R. 910. This rule allows for 12 amendments, that is 12 amendments, Madam Speaker, submitted to the Rules Committee to be made in order. Madam Speaker, I rise today in support of this rule and the underlying bill, including the open process that is taking place, not just in the Rules Committee, but also on the floor where members will be allowed to come and debate these 12 amendments as opposed to a closed rule with no amendments. This legislation, introduced by the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee, the gentleman Mr. Upton from Michigan, has gone through regular order. There were hearings held on this issue. H.R. 910 was marked up in the Energy and Commerce Committee, and the chairman of the Rules Committee, the gentleman Mr. Dreyer, provided for a structured amendment process for 12 additional Democrat amendments to be considered. The bill we are discussing today, the Energy Tax Prevention Act, would stop the Environmental Protection Agency, also known as EPA, from imposing a national energy tax in the form of carbon emission regulations. Today, I will explain what the underlying bill does, and I will discuss the EPA's agenda, what this agenda would do to the nation's job market and economy, and the need for stronger energy policy from not just our President, but also from the administration, and also as the guidepost that begins with this legislation today from the United States Congress on behalf of the American people. H.R. 910 prohibits the EPA from regulating greenhouse gases under the Clean Air Act and repeals the steps the agency has already taken to begin this process. In this bill, we only focus on greenhouse gases, and we leave EPA's authority to monitor and regulate pollutants intact. In short, the underlying bill clarifies that the Clean Air Act is not a vehicle for regulatory taxing. The decision about whether and how to regulate greenhouse gases should be made, not the regulatory body of a president who wishes to place his overriding answers on unelected bureaucrats to fulfill this role. The EPA has been aggressively pursuing a national cap and tax energy agenda through regulation and legislation for years. After cap and trade failed in Congress last year, the EPA accelerated its efforts to regulate this controversial policy through a series of new rules on hundreds of thousands of buildings all across the United States. In other words, because the President couldn't get his political agenda through Congress, he's taking his political agenda in the administration to overlay the American people. We disagree with that, and that is why we are on the floor of the House of Representatives today. Regulating greenhouse gas emissions, primarily the carbon dioxide emissions that come from coal, oil, and natural gas, will increase the cost of everything from gasoline to household utilities and, of course, groceries. Additionally, regulating and taxing emissions will ship American jobs overseas to countries that understand and recognize stable, affordable, and energy policies that are vital for their economic growth. According to a letter from the Chamber of Commerce on March the 9th of last year to the Energy and Commerce Committee, and I quote, "Those regulations will impose significant burden across the United States economy, including sectors that would have created jobs and will lead us into economic recovery." End of quote. Additionally, the letter references that the American Council for Capital Formation has, and I quote, estimated that EPA's greenhouse gas regulations could reduce business investment between $97 billion and $290 billion in 2011 and as much as $309 billion in 2014. A tremendous hit on the economy when it comes from the President of the United States, Barack Obama, and his administration. This is not a way for America or our future to be successful. The American Coalition for Clean Coal Electricity also references the American Council for Capital Formation in a press release just last month that estimates that a greenhouse gas tax, and I quote, could result in the loss of between 476,000 to 1.4 million jobs, end of quote. Republicans are committed to putting Americans back to work, and our Democratic colleagues continue to pursue a reckless agenda that puts more Americans out of work, drives business overseas, all the while limiting U.S. energy production and use. So, Madam Speaker, today the Republican Party is on the floor of the House of Representatives with good news, not just for the taxpayers, but for the American people. In particular, not just consumers, but those who have lost their job or who are underemployed. We believe that what we're doing today is a jobs saver bill. The House Natural Resources Committee reported last month that the Obama administration policies have caused domestic oil production to drop by 16% versus projected levels, and future projections show continued decreases in domestic production and more foreign imports to make up for this difference. A recent Rasmussen poll from March the 3rd, 2011 shows that 3/4 of Americans believe this country does not do enough to develop its own oil and gas resources. So, whether through greenhouse gas regulation, permit delays, or permitting moratoriums, which the President stands behind in this administration should change their policies and their direction. We must find new sources of energy and not tax those that exist for the freedom of this country. So, while energy prices soar and continue to soar, and projections estimate a $5 a gallon gasoline by summertime, this administration wants to inflict more costs on consumers. The bill today would help to ease the cost of energy prices. It would assist in the global competitiveness of America. It would help ensure that this nation does not lose millions of more jobs and does not threaten the intent of the Clean Air Act. No, Madam Speaker, the Republican Party is here because this is yet another opportunity at a jobs bill that is pro-consumer and pro the American people who want and need to be able to help in a desperate time when we're losing our jobs and things are tough back home, to do something positive on behalf of the American public. This is a bipartisan bill that provides good policy for our nation, and we're asking every single member of Congress to understand clearly and see this for what it is. It is a jobs protection bill. Madam Speaker, I encourage my colleagues to vote yes on the rule and the underlying bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Texas reserves the balance of his time.